I'm Fiorella Granda. I'm an illustrator, designer, and content creator based here in Toronto, Canada. My work focuses on the exciting intersections of design and sport. I work a lot in the women's sports space. I studied architecture at the University of Toronto, where I also played there with Gabby. I studied architecture and I worked at an architecture firm for a few years before transitioning into freelance illustration and graphic design. So after I was done being a student athlete, I felt like a huge part of me was missing. And I know like a lot of student athletes kind of go through that same identity crisis, let's say, after they graduate. So I started posting sport related artwork on social media, kind of thinking nothing would really happen from it. And as time went on, I started not liking architecture the way I used to. And I think my first big kind of aha moment was when I did a project with the WNBA to design Canada's first WNBA court. And with that project, I was like, I have to make a career of this somehow. So then opportunities started coming up, and I had to pass on a lot of amazing opportunities because I had a full-time job, which was great, and I did really love it. But I decided to take a risk last year and go freelance full-time as of August 1st, 2024. So it's been about a year and a half or so, and it's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. My mom played on the Peruvian national basketball team. My family and I were from Peru, so basketball was a huge part of my life from a very early age. But also I was encouraged to like be creative. My grandfather was an architect, so sport and creativity were always a huge part of my life. Played throughout my adolescence and of course played at U of T. And also like when I was in architecture school at U of T, they let us just like literally do whatever we wanted and be free and be creative, which was such a blessing because I got to explore that area of sport and creativity. Even like most of my architecture projects would always relate to sports somehow. Like I literally did my senior thesis on providing sport and recreation to marginalized communities in Peru. And yeah, that curiosity was always there, and it's just crazy to see what it's like blossomed into now. I think my mom like encouraged both me and my sister a lot to be into sports. She never like pushed basketball a lot, honestly, just what we were both interested in. I mean, of course, she was happy that I chose to play basketball. I think she saw a lot of herself in me, and I think sport is so just like important for any young kid. Like it teaches you so much about teamwork, about leadership, about time management, all the things. And honestly, like I'm super grateful for my student athlete experience at U of T. Not like because obviously like I get to gain so many lifelong friends from it, and the community aspect is what I love the most, but also like I just think it teaches you so much about just lifelong skills and like how to be resilient and how to really handle anything, especially because U of T is such a hard academic school. So honestly, I think if you can go through U of T as a student athlete, you can literally go through anything. You really have to humble yourself when you're a student athlete because everything is just bigger than you. But also like in architecture, the critique scene is really big. Like whenever you present a project, it's quite literally called a crit. It's called a critique. It's to invite people to critique your work. And I've just always been conditioned to like accept feedback, whether it's good, bad, unuseful, not useful, whatever. That's just always been a part of my creative process. So even when I work with my clients now, I always tell them like, be very honest, like it's not gonna hurt my feelings, because at the end of the day, like I'm providing a service for you and you have to be happy and ecstatic about it as well. Like I don't feel like I'm gonna do a good job if you're not happy with it. So I always just try to push them to be as honest as they can. And also like being on social media has like I guess my experience from being a student athlete and being in architecture has allowed me to have a bit of thicker skin, because I mean when you post your work out there, you also invite a lot of eyes and ears to have opinions about you and your work. So yeah, I mean it's just kind of been always something that I've been used to. When I first graduated, like I was really going through it, because you go from spending like 4 to 6 hours every day with a group of people that you're so close to like working a 9 to 5 with strangers that you barely know and you're like not connected with, because all those like 4 to 6 hours that you're spending with people every day, like you're bonded. You literally know everything and every single detail about each person. Like not even just like their like school life, but also like their deep personal life as well. That's what I love so much about basketball, is that when you're like going through something hard, you always have teammates around you. Like you always have community, and I think that's what I really, really miss about basketball, is just seeing my best friends every day, truly. And I really struggled with that, and because I was the first one of, well, not first one, but I was obviously super close to Lauren and Jess on the team, and when I graduated and they were still playing, I just felt like so left out, and I was like, oh my gosh, my best friends are with each other every day. Like they're gonna get closer. I'm not gonna be with them anymore. They're gonna forget about me, and yeah, that was something that I had to really struggle with. Also, I had to move back in with my parents, which was another shock in itself, because I was so used to having my independence and being with my roommates and stuff like that. But obviously, like everything happens for a reason, and me living with my parents allowed me to like save up a ton of money, grow my business, and just like be where I am now. And yeah, like I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, but I do really miss the community and like girlhood aspect of everything. My favorite moment with you guys was definitely my senior night. I think it's such a special moment to like celebrate how far you've come in the last few years, but also how much you've changed and you've grown over the last few years. I think I played my best basketball when I was just feeling free and loose and fun, and I definitely had those moments leading up to the game, and yeah, I really missed that night a lot. It was such a fun. I first started posting on my account, Fiorella Doodles, and I think I had like, I think maybe 500 followers at the time, when I was just like posting as a creative outlet, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know if I like architecture anymore. Like, and I was mass applying to thousands and thousands of jobs, and like nobody accepted my job applications because my style of art was so stylized that like how could you mesh that in like a creative agency for like, I don't know, if your client's like Home Depot or something. Like, not my style is not everybody's cup of tea, and I just had a really hard time accepting that. Anyways, at the time I saw the artist call, and I was like, I'm not gonna do this. Like, I'm way too burnt out for this. Like, I would just rather put my head down and grow. But then I saw that I'm a big signs girl, so people just kept sending this to me. People kept tagging me in this. And it wasn't until Jess, actually, one of my best friends, Jess, sent this to me on Instagram being like, you have to do this. You're perfect for this. So I was like, okay. And and I remember this was due on like July 6th, like right after Canada Day weekend. I'm like, no, like I'm going to a concert with my friends. Like I just want to relax and like have fun. But I was like, no, like I'm going to put my head down and focus on this because it's a huge opportunity. So I didn't even know how to tackle this at first, because I'm like, this is such a incredible moment in like Canadian women's sports. How do I even represent this all? So then I started looking at key moments throughout the WNBA's history, and I wanted to be also functional for the athletes that were playing on it, but it also be in like an expressive and significant art piece. So I wanted to highlight like the main basketball zone, so like the key 3-point line, core boundaries, etc., but also include like pivotal moments that marked the WNBA as like the most exciting and pivotal basketball sports league in women's history. So like I included the first WNBA basket, the first WNBA slam dunk. Kia Nurse is also in the mural, a Canadian WNBA player. And also, this was going to a community that loved basketball and played on that court for years and years and years, but there was just so many like holes and erosion. So all the kids of that community were also super excited to get that court as well. So throughout the process, it was really exciting to work with them and see how happy they got. And again, that was my big aha moment of like, I have to make a career of this. I don't know how, but I'm gonna make it happen. And then fast forward now, like we have Toronto Tempo, because our goal with that court was to one day have the WNBA have the WNBA expand to Canada. So now having Toronto Tempo, and now I'm working with Tempo, just seems like a very full circle moment. And I was also a part of the CIBC Champions of Ambitions campaign, and CIBC is the founding partner of the Toronto Tempo. So in that campaign, they were highlighting women changing the basketball space. So like I was representing the art category, which was insane. So to have that be like a full circle moment and playing a role in shaping women's sport in Canada was so rewarding and fulfilling. Like when I was playing basketball, I always felt like there was definitely a lack of representation in that, even like with some treatment that the men's team got over the women's team, and how much the difference of turnout that they had for their games versus our games was just like, the discrepancy was so huge. So I always felt that discrepancy my whole life. Basically, my goal with my work is to make sport more inclusive through art, and I started really thinking about that and that same philosophy, and we see it all over. Like brands are really starting to like take initiative and take ownership of that now. The opening day of the WNBA court, I had a lot of young girls come up to me being like, I'm gonna play basketball too, and like I just signed up for my house league team. And I think growing up there was a huge, even to this day, there's a huge gender exercise gap. Like a lot of women are discouraged to be in sports because whether it's a lack of representation, whether it's really costly, whether they're just discouraged to try it in general. And I just hope that for them to see somebody like me, or like Aja Wilson, for example, and just people finally spotlighting pivotal women in these industries can encourage more girls in sport. And like we've seen a huge change in that, because we now have the NSL, we now have the PWHL, and now we have Toronto Tempo. These young girls in Canada can now see all these incredible women right in their own country. They don't have to travel to the States, they don't have to travel to Europe to see these women. So I'm truly a firm believer that representation truly matters. And I'm so glad that the next generation of young girls have this to look forward to. I think the biggest advice that I would give the next generation, and advice that I wish I gave myself, was I gaslighted myself because I never thought that I could be an entrepreneur. I never thought that I could run my own company. And every time that I had the thought of, I want to do this, I want to freelance, I want to run my own company, I would always think, not a possibility, shut that down, way too risky. So I know that there's obviously a lot of factors when it comes to taking risks, and I thankfully had a full-time job and was living with my parents at the time and was saving up money. But if I were to say something to the next generation, I would just say to take the biggest risks possible. Like, you literally have your entire life to build your career in the life you want. And if you're gonna work for the next 40 years, you may as well do something you enjoy. And I would always just say to lean into your curiosity. Some people say that they're not creative, but I don't think that's true. I think everybody is creative, whether that be through knitting, crocheting, content creation. I think having something curious and a creative outlet is definitely good to explore what you're good at and what your strengths are. And yeah, just to always be curious and to take risks.